I never thought I'd be sitting across from my own son, watching him smile like a predator who'd just cornered his prey. But there I was, in that sterile military office, listening to him explain why I deserved nothing from my own service payout. "Dad, let's be realistic here," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair with that entitled smirk I'd been seeing more and more lately. "You're 58 years old. What are you going to do with $38 million? You'll probably be dead in 10 years anyway." I felt my jaw tighten, but I kept my mouth shut. The commander hadn't arrived yet, and I wanted to hear exactly how far my son would go. "I've already talked to Mom about this," he continued, scrolling through his phone like this conversation bored him. "She agrees that it makes more sense for the money to go directly to me. I can invest it properly, build something with it. You just, I don't know, buy a fishing boat or something equally stupid. 27 years, that's how long I'd served in the military. 27 years of deployments, of missing birthdays and anniversaries, of carrying the weight of decisions that kept me up at night. And this is what I'd raised." "Marcus," I started, my voice steady despite the anger building in my chest. "No, Dad, listen," he interrupted, holding up his hand like I was a subordinate he could silence. "This isn't personal. It's practical. You and Mom are getting divorced anyway. She's already agreed to sign whatever needs to be signed to transfer everything to me. It's cleaner this way." I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become this person? Was it the private schools his mother had insisted on? The luxury cars we'd bought him for his 21st and 25th birthdays? The fact that we'd never let him struggle for anything? "Your mother agreed to this?" I asked quietly. "Of course she did," Marcus said, his tone suggesting I was stupid for even questioning it. "She knows I'll take care of her, unlike you, who'll probably blow it all on some midlife crisis nonsense." The door opened, and Commander Reynolds walked in, a thick folder under his arm. He was a good man, someone I'd served with during my earlier years. He looked between Marcus and me, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. He'd heard enough to understand the situation. "Gentlemen," he said, settling into his chair, "let's get started." Marcus immediately launched into his prepared speech. "Commander, I appreciate you taking the time for this meeting. I'm here representing my mother's interests as well as my own. We've been discussing the best way to handle my father's military compensation package, and we believe—" "Mr. Chen," Commander Reynolds interrupted, his voice firm but not unkind, "I appreciate your initiative. But this meeting is about your father's benefits, not yours." I saw the first crack in Marcus's confidence. "I understand that, sir, but as his son, and with my mother's support, I think it's important that we establish—" "What's important," the commander said, opening his folder, "is that we follow military regulations and the law. This payout is the result of Lieutenant Colonel Chen's 27 years of distinguished service, including 3 combat deployments and a service-related injury that ended his career prematurely." My shoulder throbbed at the mention of it, as if on cue. The injury that had forced my early retirement, the one that still made it hard to lift my left arm above my head. "Right, but," Marcus tried again. "There is no but, Mr. Chen," Commander Reynolds said, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Your father's military compensation is his and his alone. It's not marital property that can be divided in a divorce. It's not an inheritance that you're entitled to. It's payment for his service to this country." I watched my son's face turn red. He'd been so sure, so confident that he could waltz in here and take what was mine. "My mother told me—" "I don't care what your mother told you," I finally said, my voice low and controlled. "This is my money. I earned it. With my blood, my time, and my sacrifice." Marcus turned to me, his eyes wide with genuine shock. "You're really going to be selfish about this? After everything we've done for you?" I almost laughed. "Everything you've done for me? Marcus, I paid for your entire education. I bought you 2 cars. I gave you $100,000 to start your business that failed within 6 months. What exactly have you done for me? I'm your son, he shouted, standing up. You're supposed to take care of me. You're 29 years old, I said, remaining seated, remaining calm. You're not a child anymore, and I've taken care of you your entire life. Now it's time for you to take care of yourself. Commander Reynolds cleared his throat. Mr. Chen, I'm going to have to ask you to step outside. This meeting is between your father and myself. Marcus looked between us, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. This is insane. Mum said this would be easy. She said you'd just sign the papers and your mother doesn't speak for me anymore, I said. She hasn't for a long time. After Marcus stormed out, slamming the door behind him, Commander Reynolds leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. That was your son? He asked. Unfortunately, I replied. He pulled out a stack of documents. John, I've known you for 20 years, so I'm going to be straight with you. This payout is significant. $38 million is life-changing money. You need to be very careful about how you handle this, especially with your divorce pending. I understand, sir. Your wife cannot claim this money in the divorce, he continued. Military disability and retirement pay are not considered marital property in most states, and your case is particularly clear-cut, since it's compensation for a service-related injury. But she can make things difficult. Your son obviously can make things difficult. I nodded slowly. What do you recommend? Get a good lawyer, not just any divorce lawyer, someone who specializes in military benefits and high-asset divorces. Document everything, every conversation, every text message, every email, especially if they're going to try to claim you promised them anything. I never promised them anything, I said firmly. Good. Keep it that way. He slid a business card across the desk. This is someone I trust. Former JAG officer, now in private practice. She's handled cases like this before. I took the card, studying the name. Rebecca Martinez, attorney at law. There's something else, Commander Reynolds said, his expression becoming more serious. I wasn't going to mention this, but given what I just witnessed, your ex-wife came to see me 2 weeks ago. My blood ran cold. What? She wanted to know about your payout, claimed she had a right to information about your military benefits since you were still married. I told her the same thing I'm telling you. This money is yours alone. But she was insistent. Asked a lot of questions about when you'd receive it, how it would be paid out, whether there were any conditions attached. Jesus, I muttered, running my hand through my graying hair. She also mentioned that you'd be well taken care of and wouldn't need all that money. Said something about how Marcus was the future and deserved the chance to build something meaningful. I closed my eyes, trying to process this betrayal. Laura and I had been together for 32 years. We'd married young, built a life together, raised a son together. When had she become someone who would scheme behind my back? John, Commander Reynolds said gently, I need you to understand something. This kind of money changes people. It brings out the worst in them. Your wife and son, they see dollar signs. They don't see your sacrifice, your service, your pain. They see what they think they're entitled to. I opened my eyes and met his gaze. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a man who's still hoping his family will do the right thing. They won't, not unless you force them to. He was right, of course. I'd been holding on to this fantasy that maybe Laura would remember who we used to be, that Marcus would realize how his words had hurt me, but that wasn't going to happen. The money will be transferred to your account within 48 hours, the commander continued. I strongly suggest you have your attorney set up a trust or some other protective structure before then. Once that money hits your account, your wife will know, and she'll move fast. I nodded, feeling the weight of it all settling on my shoulders. Thank you, sir, for everything. Don't thank me. Just protect yourself. You earned this money the hard way. Don't let them take it from you. I left the office and found Marcus waiting in the hallway, his face still flushed with anger. So that's it? You're just going to cut us out completely? Marcus, I'm not cutting you out of anything. This money was never yours to begin with. Mom needs it, he said, switching tactics. You know she can't work. She's been a housewife for 30 years. What's she supposed to do? She'll get what she's entitled to in the divorce, I said calmly. The house, half of my regular pension, spousal support. She'll be fine. Fine? Marcus laughed bitterly. She'll be barely scraping by while you sit on millions. How is that fair? Fair? I stopped walking and turned to face him. You want to talk about fair? Let me tell you about fair, Marcus. Fair was me missing your 10th birthday because I was deployed in Afghanistan. Fair was your mother having to go to your high school graduation alone because I was recovering from surgery after taking shrapnel in my shoulder. Fair was 27 years of serving my country while you grew up in a nice house, went to private schools, and never wanted for anything. That was your choice, he shouted. You're right, it was. Just like this is my choice now. This money is mine. I earned it, and I'll decide what to do with it. I walked away, leaving him standing there. My phone buzzed, a text from Laura. Marcus called me. We need to talk. Come to the house tonight. I didn't respond. Instead, I called the number on the business card Commander Reynolds had given me. Martinez Law Firm, how can I help you? My name is John Chen. Commander Reynolds gave me this number. I need to speak with Rebecca Martinez about protecting my military benefits. One moment, please. The hold music was surprisingly soothing. I sat in my car, staring at the military base that had been my second home for nearly 3 decades. In 48 hours, my life would change completely. The question was whether I'd let Laura and Marcus destroy it before it even began. Mr. Chen, this is Rebecca Martinez. Her voice was professional but warm, with a slight accent that reminded me of my mother. Commander Reynolds recommended you, I said. I have a situation with my military payout and my pending divorce. I'm familiar with your case, she said, which surprised me. The commander called ahead. Can you come to my office this afternoon? I think we need to move quickly. How quickly? The money hits your account in 48 hours, correct? Yes. Then we have about 46 hours to make sure it stays yours. Can you be here in an hour? I looked at my phone, at Laura's unanswered text, at the time showing 2:47 p.m. I'll be there in 45 minutes. Rebecca Martinez's office was nothing like I expected. Instead of the cold corporate atmosphere I'd imagined, it was warm and welcoming, with photographs of military personnel on the walls and certificates showing her service as a JAG officer. She was younger than I expected, probably in her early 40s, with dark hair pulled back in a professional bun and sharp eyes that seemed to catalogue everything about me in the first 30 seconds. Lieutenant Colonel Chen, she said, extending her hand. Please, sit. Just John, please, I'm retired now. Old habits, she smiled. Coffee? Water? I'm fine, thank you. She settled behind her desk, pulling out a legal pad. Commander Reynolds briefed me on the basics. $38 million payout, pending divorce, wife and son already circling. Is that accurate? Unfortunately. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out, even if you think it's not important. So I did. I told her about Marcus showing up at the meeting, about his assumption that the money would be his, about Laura going to see the commander 2 weeks ago, about 32 years of marriage that had slowly deteriorated into something I barely recognized. When did you file for divorce? She asked. 3 months ago. We'd been separated for 6 months before that. And the payout? When were you notified about it? 8 months ago, right before Laura and I separated. Rebecca's eyes narrowed. So she knew about the money before you separated? Yes, I told her the same day I found out. What was her reaction? I thought back to that conversation, to the way Laura's eyes had lit up when I mentioned the amount. She was excited, started talking about traveling, buying a bigger house, helping Marcus expand his business. I told her I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet, that I needed time to think about it. And that's when things got bad. That's when she started pushing for Marcus to be more involved in our financial decisions, said he had a business degree, that he was smart with money, that we should trust him to help us invest. Rebecca scribbled notes. Did you give Marcus any financial control? No, I've never even given him access to our bank accounts. Good. What about your wife? We have joint accounts for household expenses, but my military pay goes into a separate account that only I control. Smart. She looked up at me. John, I'm going to be direct with you. Your wife and son are going to fight this. They're going to claim you promised them the money. They're going to claim you're mentally unstable from your service. They're going to throw everything they can at you to try to get a piece of that 38 million. I know. Do you? Because a lot of my clients know intellectually that their family will fight them, but they're not emotionally prepared for how ugly it gets. These people are your wife and son. It's going to hurt. I met her eyes. It already hurts. My son looked me in the eye today and told me I'd probably be dead in 10 years anyway, so why do I need the money? My wife went behind my back to try to find out information about my benefits. The hurt has already happened. Now I just need to protect myself. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, I'm setting up an irrevocable trust. The money will go directly into the trust when it's paid out, which means it's legally separate from you. Your wife can't touch it in the divorce, and your son has no claim to it. What about me? Can I access it? You'll be the beneficiary. You can draw from it as needed, but the principal is protected. We'll also set up a separate LLC for any investments you want to make. Keep everything clean and documented. What will this cost? My retainer is $50,000. Given the amount involved, that's a bargain, and it'll come from the settlement, so you don't need to pay anything up front. I nodded slowly. What else? We document everything. Every text, every email, every conversation. If your wife or son contacts you about the money, you refer them to me. You don't engage, you don't argue, you don't defend yourself. Let me handle it. They're going to be angry. Let them be angry. Angry people make mistakes. We'll use those mistakes to protect you. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Laura. John, I know you're upset, but we need to talk about this like adults. This money affects all of us. I showed Rebecca the message. She smiled grimly. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. She's already trying to establish that the money is communal property. Don't respond. She's going to keep texting. Good. The more she texts, the more evidence we have. Just forward everything to me. Over the next hour, Rebecca laid out a complete strategy. We'd file an emergency motion to ensure the payout went directly into the trust. We'd document Laura's visit to Commander Reynolds as evidence of her intent to claim the money. We'd use Marcus's own words from the meeting as proof that this was a coordinated effort to deprive me of my rightful compensation. By the time I left her office, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. My phone rang as I drove home. Laura. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to the message. John, this is ridiculous. Marcus told me what happened at your meeting. You're being incredibly selfish. This money could secure our family's future, and you're acting like it's only about you. Call me back. We need to discuss this before you do something stupid. I forwarded the voicemail to Rebecca, then blocked Laura's number. It was time to stop engaging with people who only saw me as a source of money. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. I'd blocked Laura, but Marcus had picked up the slack. So had Laura's sister, her mother, and even some of our mutual friends. The messages all said variations of the same thing. I was being selfish. I was abandoning my family. I was going to regret this. I forwarded everything to Rebecca and made breakfast. Around noon, someone started pounding on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole and saw Marcus, his face red and furious. "Dad, open this door. I know you're in there." I didn't move, just stood there, watching my son lose control on the other side of a thin piece of wood. "This is insane," he shouted. "You can't just cut us out. Mom's talked to a lawyer. We have rights. That money should be split between all of us." I pulled out my phone and started recording the audio. Rebecca had told me to document everything. "You're destroying this family," Marcus continued. "Over money. Is that what your precious military service taught you? To abandon your own wife and son?" The irony wasn't lost on me. He was accusing me of abandonment while literally demanding I hand over millions of dollars I'd earned through decades of actual service and sacrifice. After about 10 minutes, he finally left. I sent the recording to Rebecca. Her response was immediate. "Perfect. This helps us immensely. Stay strong." Indeed, that afternoon, I received an email from a law firm I'd never heard of. Laura had retained counsel. They were demanding mediation regarding marital assets, including but not limited to recent military compensation. I forwarded it to Rebecca with a simple message. "They're moving fast." She called me within minutes. "They're trying to establish that the payout is marital property. It's not, but they're going to make noise." "Are you prepared for this to get messy?" "I spent 27 years in the military," I said. "I've seen messy. This is just disappointing." "Good perspective. I've drafted our response. We're also filing a restraining order against harassment. Your son's behavior this morning crossed a line. A restraining order against my own son. John, he showed up at your home, pounded on your door, and made threatening statements. That's harassment. We need to establish boundaries now, before this escalates." She was right. I knew she was right. But signing a restraining order against Marcus felt like admitting failure as a father. "He's 29 years old," Rebecca said gently, as if reading my thoughts. "His behavior is his choice. You didn't make him pound on your door and scream threats. He did that himself." I signed the papers electronically that evening. The next day, the day the money was supposed to hit my account, I met Rebecca at the bank. We'd arranged for the funds to be transferred directly into the trust she'd established. The bank manager, a veteran himself, understood the situation and expedited everything. "Congratulations, Mr. Chen," he said as the transfer completed. "Your service is appreciated." I felt numb. $38 million. Compensation for a career cut short, for a shoulder that would never work properly again. For nights I still couldn't sleep without seeing the faces of people I'd lost. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered anyway. "John, it's Laura." She'd found a way around the block. "Please, just listen to me for 1 minute." "You have 1 minute," I said, putting her on speaker so Rebecca could hear. "This isn't about the money," Laura said, and I almost laughed at the obvious lie. "This is about our family, about everything we built together. You can't just throw 32 years away." "You threw it away," I said quietly, "when you went behind my back to the commander, when you conspired with Marcus to take what's mine, when you stopped seeing me as your husband and started seeing me as a retirement plan. That's not fair." "You know what's not fair, Laura? You know what's really not fair? I gave you everything, a good home, financial security, a son we both love, and the moment I finally get something that's just mine, compensation for my service, for my injury, you immediately try to take it. We're married. What's yours is mine. Not this. This is payment for 27 years of service that you never had to endure, for deployments you never went on, for injuries you never sustained. This is mine." There was a long pause. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. Colder. "You're going to regret this, John. My lawyer says we have a strong case. You earned that money during our marriage. That makes it community property." "Your lawyer is wrong," Rebecca interjected, speaking for the first time. "This is Rebecca Martinez, Mr. Chen's attorney. Military disability compensation is not community property under federal law. You have no claim to these funds." Another pause. "Who the hell is this?" "I just told you. And Ms. Chen, any further contact with my client should go through me. We'll be sending you a formal cease and desist today." Laura hung up. I looked at Rebecca, who was smiling slightly. "That went well," she said. "Did it?" She showed her hand. "This isn't about family or marriage. It's about money. We have her on record admitting it. That's going to help in the divorce proceedings." I sat down heavily in one of the bank's chairs. "How did it come to this?" "Money changes people," Rebecca said. "Or maybe it just reveals who they always were." That night, alone in my apartment, I finally let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. The betrayal, the disappointment, the grief for a family that had never really been what I thought it was. My phone buzzed. A text from Commander Reynolds. "How are you holding up?" I typed back, "Still standing, sir." That's all that matters. Semper Fi. I wasn't a Marine, but I appreciated the sentiment. Always faithful, always loyal. Too bad my own family couldn't say the same. 3 weeks later, I sat in a mediation room across from Laura and Marcus. Their lawyer, a shark in an expensive suit, had convinced the judge that we should at least attempt mediation before proceeding with litigation. Rebecca sat beside me, calm and professional. She'd prepared me for this moment. "Let's be clear about why we're here," the shark began. "Mr. Chen received a substantial military payout during his marriage to Ms. Chen. California is a community property state. That means nothing in this case," Rebecca interrupted smoothly. "Military disability compensation is exempt from community property division under federal law. We've already submitted the relevant statutes to the court. My client contributed to the marriage, and she'll receive her fair share of actual marital assets, the house which has substantial equity, half of Mr. Chen's regular military pension, spousal support, but the disability payout is off the table." I watched Laura's face as Rebecca spoke. She looked older than I remembered, harder, or maybe I was just seeing her clearly for the first time. "Mom deserves more than that," Marcus said suddenly. "She gave up her career to support Dad's military service. She raised me alone while he was deployed. She earned that money just as much as he did." "No," I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. "She didn't." "Dad, your mother made choices, Marcus. Good choices. Important choices. She chose to be a stay-at-home parent. She chose to support my career. But she didn't take the bullets. She didn't carry the weight of command. She didn't sustain an injury that ended her career and still causes pain every single day." "You chose that career," Laura burst out. "Nobody forced you to join the military." "You're right. I chose it. Just like you chose to marry me knowing what that career entailed. You benefited from that career for 32 years. Now you want to benefit from the end of it too. That's not how this works." The mediator, an older woman with kind eyes, spoke up. "Mr. Chen, what would you consider a fair resolution?" I looked at Rebecca, who nodded slightly. "Laura gets the house. It's worth 1.2 million, fully paid off. She gets half my regular pension, that's about 4,000 a month, and I'll provide spousal support of another 3,000 a month for 10 years. That's more than generous." "Ah, that's insulting," the shark said. "My client is entitled—" "Your client is entitled to exactly what federal law allows," Rebecca said. which does not include military disability compensation. We can continue this mediation, or we can go to court. Either way, the outcome will be the same." Laura was crying now, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. "You've changed, John. You used to care about family." "I still care about family," I said. "But I finally realized that family should care about me too, not just about what I can give them." Marcus stood up. "This is bullshit. Come on, Mom. We don't need him." As they left, Laura turned back one last time. "You'll die alone, John. With all that money and nobody to share it with. Is that really what you want?" "I'd rather be alone than be used," I said. The mediation ended. Rebecca and I walked out to her car. "That was harder than I expected," I admitted. "The first time usually is. But you did well. You stayed calm, you didn't engage emotionally, and you stuck to the facts. What happens now?" "Now we wait for them to either accept the settlement offer or file a lawsuit. Either way, we'll win. The law is clear on this." 2 months later, Laura signed the settlement agreement. She got the house, the pension split, and the spousal support. Marcus got nothing because he was never entitled to anything in the first place. I sold the military medals I'd kept in a drawer, not the important ones, just the routine ones, and donated the money to a veterans charity. Started volunteering at the VA hospital, talking to younger veterans who were struggling with their transitions to civilian life. One of them, a kid who'd lost his leg in Iraq, asked me one day, "How do you deal with people who don't understand what we've been through?" I thought about Laura, about Marcus, about all the people who'd come out of the woodwork when they heard about my payout. "You remember that you don't owe anyone your story," I said. "You don't owe anyone your sacrifice. Some people will never understand, and that's okay. You just keep moving forward." He nodded slowly. "What about family? What if they're the ones who don't understand? Then you build a new family with people who see you, not what you can give them." 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I was having coffee with Commander Reynolds when he asked me if I regretted anything. "Every day," I admitted. "I regret that my marriage failed. I regret that my son turned out the way he did. But I don't regret protecting what I earned. I don't regret standing up for myself." "Good," he said, "because you taught a lot of people a valuable lesson, not just your ex-wife and son, but everyone watching. You showed them that service matters, that sacrifice has value, that you can't just take from someone who's given everything." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Dad, this is Marcus. I've been in therapy. Can we talk?" I showed it to the commander. "What are you going to do?" he asked. I thought about it for a long moment, then put my phone away. "Maybe someday. When he's ready to see me as a person, not a bank account, but not today." Fair enough. We finished our coffee in comfortable silence. Outside, the sun was setting over the base where I'd spent so much of my life, where I'd learned about duty, honor, and sacrifice, where I'd finally learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is protect yourself from the people who are supposed to love you most. The $38 million sat in its trust, carefully managed and protected. I lived modestly, gave generously to causes I believed in, and slept well at night knowing I'd made the right choice. Because in the end, it was never about the money. It was about respect, about recognizing that some things can't be bought or taken, about understanding that I'd earned every single dollar through service and sacrifice. And that was something my son would never understand because he'd never had to earn anything in his life. Maybe someday that would change. Maybe someday he'd grow up and realize what he'd lost. But that was his journey to make. Mine was finally moving forward.